Hi, and welcome to this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television, and I appreciate you joining us for this conversation. The first half of our In Focus this week is really kind of a follow-up to a program that we did almost a year or so ago about the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County. Did I get it all in?
Yes.
Okay. And its founder, Marlene Lindsey, who was our guest, talking about some of the history, what she had found in doing some research. From that, a 501c3 organization was created, and a exhibit at the Wayne County Historical Museum is set up. There was a golf outing, a big weekend. And now let's go back, kind of touch base on some of what happened, catch the community up, remind those folks that exhibit at the Wayne County Historical Museum still exists.
Yes.
So if they haven't had a chance to see it, they can go see it and talk about where the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County goes from here. So thank you very much for agreeing to come back in and talk to me again.
You're so welcome. Yes, that weekend was beyond anybody's expectations. Most people that came, it's like, wow, I can't believe you did all of this. And for the museum to inform us that that was the largest opening weekend that they'd ever had, and we had close to 500 people attend, and most people were just blown away by it. So we were so excited, so proud that we were able to bring that history for all to see. It is still there until their new signature event comes out in June. We'll be having a meeting with them to see how we transition out. But I really urge everyone to get down and see, because what you thought you knew, you may not really know. And there are some things that is like, wow. And that may even trigger you to say, hey, my grandmother told me a story, my uncle had a story, or there may be something in the basement that, you know, an artifact that they could share with us.
Let's go back. For those who were not part of our original conversation, and you've been around long enough to know people move in, people move out. So there may be some people who don't know what the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County is or how it got started. Real quickly, tell us how this whole thing got started with you.
Okay, when George Floyd died, at that time there were many Zoom calls, and I was on a Zoom call with Carl Reinhardt, and we got to talking, you know, about the history of Richmond or where we're at. And I said, well, up till 1966, we had an all-black firehouse, and everybody was aghast, because it's like, an all-black firehouse? What? So it's like, yes, up until 1966, it was segregated. And so Carl wanted to find out more about it. He was really intrigued since he wasn't from Richmond. We went to the library, and while I was in the library, I'm reading articles about the firemen, and it said, as C.R. Richardson stated in Richmond's black newspaper, the Richmond Blade, and Richmond had an all-black newspaper. So then it got my, you know, I was curious, and I started doing more research, and in doing that I talked to people around the community that told me stories, and I started putting that together. And by that time I had about 2 manuals, and I went to the museum, because when I went to the museum there wasn't anybody that looked like me. And I thought, well, Louis Armstrong was there, but as far as Louis, I mean, he's great, but I had no connection. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm sure that the people of Richmond, the blacks of Richmond, have made a contribution here or had accomplishments here or far, and in doing that research. So that's how it got started. I went to the museum. They go, wow, you have more than us, and how about you being our signature event? So we got started, and really, you know, I'm so honored, you know, that they seen a need and were able to put it in.
Talk about how the organization went from just that beginning research from you to actually being what is now a 501c3, able to get grants to help do some of the editing and things of that nature that kind of helped brought this together.
Yes, in looking for grants and things, you about need to be a 501(c), and during that time when I started, I would ask people, could I get in on your 501(c)(3)? Could I get, and the others around me, it's like, Marlene, just go get your own. Just go get your own, because you need the grants to make this happen. And in my vision, as far as telling those stories, there are community members that have been around longer than me, and I wanted to get that on film and on tape to hear their voice. So in working with WCTV, you, Eric, and you provided me with Stephen, and we got videos. So when you go to the museum, you can even hear the voice of Ronnie Bass, who is the last living fireman from the segregated firehouse back. So that just gives a sense of pride, and that's what I wanted to do when I started out with that. I didn't feel like I had pride. I'm from Richmond, and nothing in Richmond. Nothing comes from Richmond, you know, that type of thing. But now I have a sense of pride that there's a lot that has come out of this little town, Richmond, and I want all the kids to know. We were able to put up a bulletin board at Star School, and as we were putting up the bulletin board featuring the accomplishments of blacks from Richmond, the kids were going to the cafeteria, and pretty soon a little girl come back dragging her teacher. She said, "That's my uncle," and she pointed up, and I was almost in tears, because it gave that little girl a sense of pride to see somebody she knew on a bulletin board. And I'm so happy to say we just sent out a letter to all of the schools. We just sent it out this past week with 6 biographies of legacies of Richmond,
Okay.
so that they can share that with the students during this Black History Month. Even though my goal is to make not February Black History Month, but Black History Month to be from January the 1st to December the 31st. That's my goal.
Talk about what you have learned, because you're native to Richmond.
Yes.
You grew up here.
Yes.
So a lot of what you were able to learn, you didn't know. You weren't taught. Talk about how finding that history has not only helped you, but you all have been able to attract even some of the younger, and you mentioned the young lady who was
Yes.
able to point up and go, "That's my uncle."
Yes.
But you've got young people involved in this also, understanding that mentoring, what they're able to do, what they're able to learn. And you talked about it, instilling that pride. We talk about it with our daughters a lot,
Yes.
how they need to know and understand what women have been able to accomplish.
That's right.
Understanding what African Americans have been able to accomplish in this community is just as big.
That's right. That's right. And I found out that Bob Ross, from Bob Ross Buick, started here in Richmond, which I knew that, but to find out he was the first black man to have a dealership in Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, and West Virginia. Wow. So, from Richmond, starting a small beginning, but look what he was able to accomplish. So to kids, if he did it back then, look what you can do now. So, that type of thing gave me a sense of pride. At our golf outing that we're having, our 2nd annual golf outing last year, we featured Harold Jones, that played for 5 presidents, the Queen of England, and a plethora of other, including Tony Bennett, but played for all of those. This year we're going to feature Janelle Ross, who is Bob Ross's daughter, but she's taken the dealership in Dayton, Centerville, Ohio.
Okay.
She's just, wow, the things that she's accomplished as a black woman, and we want to feature that. So at the golf outing this year, we're going to feature Janelle to show all of her accomplishments as a black woman in business, in this world of, and at a dealership where you generally only think of men. So we really want to show the accomplishments of what a black woman can do. And again, not just in Richmond, but how far has she, and wide she is well known.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're spending time with Marlene Lindsey, the founder of the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County, who currently has the signature event at the Wayne County Historical Museum. It has been up since June of last year. Will stay up through
probably the end of May.
Okay, the end of May of this year. If you haven't had a chance to go see the exhibit, it stretches. I tell you, I've been in Richmond since 1988. I have been in and out of the Historical Museum. I had never been in the basement, and what
wow.
you are able to pull together, stretched from their outbuilding into the main building and down into the basement. Talk about how you got some of those items and what happens to some of those items when the exhibit comes down in a couple of months.
I was on the phone a lot.
I'm sure you were.
I was on the phone a lot. And it was like, I talked to somebody, well, did you know so-and-so will call? Well, I knew that her father was so it was just a lot of networking and things. And so, and I have not ran across one person with a negative thing to say. Not one person with a negative thing to say. And most of the people in our community are so proud and so eager to share. And again, a sense of pride. Wow, look what we've done. Look what my father did. Look what my uncle did. Look what my grandfather did. And so that's just been so rewarding and such a joy. And I do need to say, but by the grace of God, because Marlene didn't do anything. And he just led me all the way, because I'd go somewhere and I'd meet somebody or somebody would say something, and it's like he put me at the right place at the right time. People have been so willing to donate their artifacts, what they have, and then they've signed a paper, and then when it's time to come out, if I can't secure another location or travel, then I will be giving it back to them. But we're working really hard trying to get a brick and mortar building, somewhere where we could put up a permanent display, because everything that I have collected, and I'm still collecting because it's a living, breathing exhibit, because things are still happening, so that I can show more, or even have the ability to rotate it. Come back, in 6 months and we got new things. So things like that is really, exciting, and that's what we're looking forward to, is a brick and mortar. The other thing on our agenda is to get a website. And I've been blessed to work with students at Earlham College, and they're partnering with the community. And I have some students that are writing what I have in the manuals. They're digitalizing them so that it can then be transferred over to a website, because my ultimate goal in this day and age is for kids or adults or whoever is interested to be able to go to that website and just put in authors in Richmond, and then pull up the list, because when I've gone to the library, they really want you to know who you want to look up, and then they'll go get the info. Well, I don't know their name.
Right.
So I want a website where you can just put in the title, and then those names will come up, and then you can do your other research.
Talk a little bit about the opening weekend. You and the group, what has become the board, and there is a board of directors,
Yes.
For the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County. And we should say you have to officially use that name, because it's not the only Black Legacy Project.
That's right. Yeah.
So the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County, you all worked long and hard. You were at every community event that I can remember, letting people know what you had found, talking to people, showing them what you had, gathering stories from folks. So to finally get to that opening, to see the display, to hear the reaction. Talk a little bit about what that weekend was like and all that it encompassed for you all.
Again, it was so rewarding, and we were tireless. We sent out postcards and physically mailed postcards, and I'd be at the store and I'd run across somebody. It's like, I'm Marlene Lindsey. Have you heard of the Black Legacy Project? No. Here's a card. Come. And we were so blessed to get a grant from Indiana Landmarks. And with the grant we secured from Indiana Landmarks, we were able to work with the museum, and everybody that came on that Sunday was free. So it was free. Before you had to pay. I mean, they have a nominal fee.
Correct.
But we paid. Everybody was free, so there wasn't a barrier, there wasn't an excuse, it was free. So that was so glad that we had the 501c3 so we could apply for those grants. We also received a grant from the Kiwanis, and we were able to purchase iPads. And then on the iPads, we were able, in working with WCTV, to get those video histories. So when you go to the museum, on certain ones, you're looking at a display, but you can hear people talk. Mm-hmm. Firemen and teachers and medical people, you can hear them talk. So I can't even tell you how wonderful.
Where does the organization now move? You've talked about a couple of things. You had your golf outing. Harold Jones was in, and appreciate you being able to get him to come into the studio.
Yes.
We had a great time talking to him. He was an incredible gentleman. But talk about where the organization goes. You've got your second annual golf outing, and you mentioned Janelle Ross is going to be featured in that. When is it going to be? When are people going to begin to hear information about when they can sign up and where the golf outing will be?
Yes, the golf outing is going to be June the 22nd. It's a Saturday this year. We had Friday, but it's a Saturday, so more people are off from work. It's going to be at Elks Country Club, and we're working on the save the date cards now. Okay. So here within the next couple of weeks, we want to start getting that out, because everyone there said that was the best fun they had at a golf outing, and it's like, okay, you were just hitting a ball, what made it fun? But our organization and the things that we had in place, they just really enjoyed it, and the gentlemen and ladies that came said, we'll be back next year, so we're hoping for an even better event.
You're talking about a potential brick and mortar location.
Yes.
How much do you think we'll be able to stay with the museum itself? Because I assume at this point there are things that they would like to keep on permanent display, rolling some things in and out. But again, you had, when we had you here previously, you had notebooks of information then, and I'm sure you're still collecting since that event has happened. You've probably had more people find you, more people tell you stories. Do you believe that there is still a lot more history to uncover that you all will be able to display?
Yes. I do believe that. I believe we really only scratched the surface. And again, it is an ongoing living histories that are being made now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I found out, and I'm not going to be able to call her name right off, Bradwell or something like that, is a judge in Indianapolis. A lady judge? Wow. I mean, for me, that's amazing. So for the school kids coming up to know that there is a woman judge just over in Indianapolis that came from Richmond, I think that's exciting, and I think people need to know.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yes, it's ongoing, and I have more things. Again, we're to meet with the museum here within the next couple of weeks to see what it's going to look like, transitioning out. What they have space, they may not have space to keep much.
Okay.
So we're trying to, meet with them to see what that's going to look like. But again, to have our own brick and mortar, to be able to display those things and change them out and even spread. I focused on Wayne County, Richmond, but
Right.
Wayne County goes out a little further than Richmond, Cambridge City or Centerville, and it is at the museum in the exhibit, even Longtown, Ohio, where the first free black man had a settlement, and how many people came out of that settlement. At some time we may, expand into that, or where those descendants went to.
If someone wants to connect with you all, what do you need or want from the community at this point, and how can they connect with you all? Are you still looking for volunteers? Are you still looking for board members? Are you looking for more stories? And how do you connect with people who want to provide that information to you?
Right. We have our website, blacklegacywayneco@gmail.com. You can contact me, mwl1801@aol.com. And my phone number, 765-969-0673. We need volunteers. We have certain committees, so those committees we need more help, doing the things that we're doing. So right now, not more board members, but we're looking at more people that can help. If you have information or know a story or want to make sure, did you include somebody, please let me know. Nobody's turned away, and we want to get everything so that, because as time's going on, what was last year is now history today.
True.
So it keeps going. So, to tell the stories, it's just so, it's never really been captured here.
Is your story being captured as part of this? Because you are now starting this history, building this legacy of information.
Right.
Are you jotting down and becoming a part of what will be remembered in the future?
Oh, no. Was I supposed to be in it?
You said what was last year is now history.
That's
You
true.
have created a certain amount of history by being able to help bring this to light. Your research, your interest, your tenacity in following up on all of this is now a part of this story.
Wow. Thank you, Eric. I hadn't thought of that. I guess we'll see.
All right.
Maybe next year when you call me back, when I'm back interviewing for another update, I'll let you know.
And hopefully we'll have you back in just a little bit of information so that you'll be able to update about your golf tournament or anything else that happens between now and then. Before we let you go, we're down to our last couple of minutes. What do you want or need the community to know that I have not asked you about?
Donations. We are being a 501c3. We take donations. We're, getting grants or just help that way.
All right.
So,
And the numbers that you gave from a Gmail account, through your phone number, through the Facebook page, great ways to keep up with you all and to be able to connect with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Marlene Lindsey, founder of the Black Legacy Project of Wayne County. Appreciate what you have been able to do. Enjoyed working with you on the first round of this project, knowing that there's probably more to come. And thank you very much for the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
We'll be back with more In Focus in just a moment.
WCTV supports local entertainment. WCTV supports local information. WCTV supports our local students. WCTV needs your support to continue supporting our community, and it's easy to do. Become a member as an individual or family. Nonprofit and business memberships are also available, with benefits including video production and program sponsorship. Membership donations are critical, and when deciding where your support dollars go, support an organization that serves the community you live in. Visit WCTV.info or call 765-973-8488.
Hi, I'm Sherry Harlan, program host for Let's Talk Together. Join us on our next episode where we will talk with Dr. Brian Fong, Reed Heart and Vascular Surgery for American Heart Month.
I've been seeing often in this community is peripheral arterial disease. Basically, that's occlusions of the arteries that lead from the heart that go to whether it's the organs or the arms and legs.
Join us Thursday, 8 o'clock, Channel 20, WETV.
Coming up on this month's Access to the Arts, I have conversation with Joe Lapone from Earlham College. Melinda Wilson has an artist spotlight. And we also have a conversation with Jessica Raposo about the new album 2x3 featuring composer Nathan Frobe's music. Watch Access to the Arts Thursday nights at 9 on WETV Channel 20 on Comcast Cable, and also available on Whitewater Community Television's YouTube channel. Back to In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric. Thanks for sticking with us as we change guests in studio and record on a different day. So I don't know whether I'm wearing the same clothes or not anymore. This recording schedule gets to be stranger and stranger as we go. But I'm glad that we were able to hold this second segment, because whenever we get close to one of our election cycles, primary or general, I really like to have a chance to talk to our county clerk, Debbie Berry. One, she's a joy always to talk to. And secondly, loaded with information. And voting is so important. And you and I have had that discussion even off camera as to the importance of voting for both of us and wanting people to have all of the possible information that they could have. So thank you for coming in and spending some time with me. I appreciate it.
Well, it's my honor, Eric. Thank you for asking me to.
Let's start with some information. We are done as far as candidates at this point stepping into the races. We're recording this on Monday, the 12th of February. Friday, the 9th at noon was the deadline for candidates to file. There are plenty of primary races just in Wayne County, and that doesn't include the state, where there's races for governor, U.S. senator, and things of that nature. Talk about how this process for your office works out for you.
Well, of course, local candidates do file in our office. State candidates file with the Secretary of State in Indianapolis. So, you know, we're notified in SVRS daily of who's filed, and so that we can put it on add it to our list, which will evolve into a ballot. So the only deadline left now for candidates is February the 16th is the last day that a candidate can withdraw. So, you know, if they've changed their mind about running the race or something, then they do have that opportunity to withdraw on the 16th.
Okay. Right now we have primary races in Wayne County for Wayne Superior Court 1, Wayne County Clerk District 2, Clerk of Circuit Court, the job that you're stepping away from, Wayne County Coroner, Wayne County Treasurer, and U.S. District 6 representative, the seat that Congressman Pence has decided he will not run for. Also, there's a primary race for both governor as well as U.S. senator.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about any changes for voting that residents need to know about it? And we know sometimes the legislature does things. Some laws take effect January 1, some laws take effect July 1. Talk about if there's anything different in voting for your office that folks need to be aware of.
Well, actually, not anything new for this primary. In the general election last year, we had a change with our early voting, which is also absentee voting. Any vote that is cast prior to Election Day, even though it's at a vote center, it's considered absentee voting. So the legislature changed, and we had to have voters put their ballot into an envelope rather than scanning it on their own. And then we had bipartisan teams opening and scanning those ballots in the office on Election Day. So that changed last year. I feel like our voters really like voting on paper, and eventually there's of course a huge push with the legislatures that it become law and only do paper voting, paper ballot. So that was a change. The other change that we're going to have this year, a couple of changes I'd like for the voters to know about. One is now I partnered with the Secretary of State's office and requested monies out of a grant that Secretary Morales had obtained from the federal government to order a central count scanner, where instead of having to have these teams that just scan one ballot at a time, we can scan 100 up to 500, and it will count them in 2 to 7 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So that, that will be great to have that ability instead of starting at 6 a.m. opening, especially for a presidential election. We did it, for the municipal small town election.
Right.
It was painstakingly slow, but we did get through it. And I just couldn't imagine, with a presidential election, having to open every one of those and scan them individually. So I'm very grateful to Secretary Morales for working with, our county. That machine, that one central count scanner is $80,000.
Wow.
Just for the scanner. So that's taxpayer monies that we did not have to use to purchase that for Wayne County.
It should make things go faster. And here's a question: what type of paper trail and how do you do that? Because obviously that's been a big conversation over the last couple of years. One of the reasons for going back to paper balloting, I assume,
Right.
is to kind of have that paper trail and being able to match up ballots after the fact. Talk about what it was like going back to the paper ballots over the last couple of elections, how that worked in your office, any issues that it may have created.
Well, actually, we've always had a percentage of paper ballots. Number one, for any provisional voting, and number two, for mail out. Now, we do have the capability of ballot on demand, just print, a voter's ballot when we get their requests to send them, a ballot. We can just do print on demand, but we've optioned to order some paper ballots, not near as many as we used to, but for that practice to send those to mail out. Having the paper ballots, we have to have them and sort them and keep them for 22 months. So there's a little bit of storage because there's just more paper there.
Sure.
But then once everything is certified 22 months later, then we can, destroy by shredding those ballots. We balance the number of ballots that we get by the number of check-ins. So when our voters check in with the electronic e-poll book, we can tell who's checked in, how many people's checked in, and at what location they were in. So we always balance those numbers to make sure, okay, we had 257 check-ins at First English Lutheran today. How many ballots do we have, that's been scanned on the scanner? So it's a good second opportunity to make sure that everything is in balance. Of course, last year we had a post-election audit, which that came out, very well, without any discrepancies. So the team from Ball State came, and we had to pull all of our ballots, the paper ballots that we had,
Right.
and separate those into precincts, and they hand counted, and it was a great experience. So that, we were glad to participate in that. That's kind of an optional thing, which someday probably will be mandatory, but at the time, right now, it's optional.
What made you all decide to do it?
Because we went to paper ballots.
Okay.
We just wanted to test ourselves to see, that everything was right on the money, and so and it's a learning experience for my staff. It was a good training experience for us to all work together and see how that process could be accomplished.
Talk a little bit, if you would, Debbie, please, about even just the process of making sure you are registered to vote and able to vote. And I say that because a number of people, and you and I both know it, people move in, people move out. There are folks that are here now who weren't here for our November election. They've made that move. They voted in a different way where they were from. They're not familiar with Indiana law. So can you talk about how people can get registered and how much time they have to be able to do it, particularly for the upcoming primary?
Well, absolutely. If you're a person who has moved from a different state, or even moved this year to a different precinct here locally within Wayne County, or from another city in Indiana. So you come into our office to register is one option. We're always happy to meet new voters and talk to them. Second option, or first option, because people like technology and the convenience of not having to be there by 4:30 when we close, not having to leave your phone in the car because security won't let you bring your phone in. They do choose, the electronic online.
And we should probably mention that because a number of people who have not been in the courthouse may not know you cannot take your phone into the courthouse. You cannot get past the scanners
Security.
inside the door.
No, and there are lockers there for people, but you cannot bring your phone in, and so if they they can just go to indianavoters.com. There's an app that you can download, on your cell phone, and you can register online. You need your driver's license number or your last four of your social security. So then you can register, and then they will send, the state will send that registration to us. We'll get it in our hopper electronically the next day, and then we will register them. Have them ready, add them to our e-poll book, and then they can come and vote. Now, if voters have moved since the last election, and hasn't changed their address, they'll have the opportunity to change their address with our office at any time. They can come in and change their address, but they can also change it when they go to the vote center to vote. They can fill out a form, but they won't get to vote in the new precinct that they live in because they're registered where they lived before. So they will vote in the precinct one time, that they lived in before.
Interesting. Okay. One of the things that we were talking about ahead of time. I'm sorry. Let me finish that up. Voter registration for the primary lasts until when? And folks should know that up until at some point before the primary, there's a cutoff date, and then voter registration will reopen so that people can get registered for the general election in the fall. So just if you miss that primary registration date, you can still get registered later.
Yes.
For the general election.
Yes. And so voters registration ends on April the 8th.
Okay.
At the close of the clerk's office if you're coming in, so it would close at 4:30, but you still have to 11:59 p.m. online to register on April the 8th.
That's interesting. The voice in my head, you said April 8th for registration, which is the date of the eclipse.
It is, and voters may have heard that there is pending action in Wayne County about closing to the public on April 8th. So if that does happen, it'll be April the 9th.
Okay.
For our office. Now, I don't know yet about what the state will do if, the state is going to statewide with voters registration, but they would have until April the 9th if we extend it.
But
at the
if you all
courthouse.
close, Wayne County, has the option of extending in your office only voter registration.
That's correct. If the commissioners close the courthouse, then we don't set the hours in voters registration. But if the courthouse is closed, then that will be extended to April the 9th.
Okay. You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're having a chance to spend some time with Debbie Berry, Wayne County Clerk, who is term limited in her position,
Yes.
is not running in this election. I'm just curious. I'm going to go the side. You've run in a couple of elections. You were appointed first time. You finished the term of Joanne Stewart.
Correct.
And then you have run 2 successive times. What is it like coming around and knowing you're helping with this election, but this will be your last one?
Well, I hope it won't be my last one. I'll become a poll worker very gladly.
Well,
to
as
do
far
that.
as in the clerk's office.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just time, because since I am term limited, and I want to stay active and connected. So I would be honored and privileged, always to be a poll worker. I worked the polls for many years before I ever even considered becoming clerk. But and I'll stay active, like precinct committeeman and state convention. I'm on the ballot for those things, But as far as running for an office, we'll just see what retirement feels like.
Okay. Talk a little bit about, since you're talking about volunteering to be a poll worker, talk about what that position is like, how many people you need, what the training is like, and what you need from people. Because I asked you again before we went on the air, you need a poll worker. The answer was, we always need poll workers.
We always need poll workers. Our pool of poll workers has a lot of retired people. And so, things come up with them with their health or different activities. They might want to go on a bus trip. But it actually happened one time. We lost about 4 good poll workers because they were going on a bus trip. So,
Okay.
But I mean, during election time, there's things that come up in their lives. So, most of our poll workers are past the middle age. They're in their golden years, and so that pool of poll workers seems to retire to Florida or pass away, or it's always a changing group. So in COVID, we lost some really good, faithful poll workers during that time, during the pandemic. So we would like to see younger people get involved, but every time we get someone who calls and checks in about becoming a poll worker, well, they have jobs that they just can't take off and work all week, for early voting and that sort of thing. So people who can work and become a poll worker, if they go to our website, go to the Clerk of Courts in Richmond, Indiana, Wayne County, Indiana, Clerk of Courts, then we are setting up a poll worker site on there where there's an application that they can fill out the application there. We'll give that to each of the party appointees on the election board, and they will get a call from them. Early voting, we have judges, clerks, and inspectors. Our inspectors, we pretty much have set. We will need a couple of inspectors because one is on the ballot, so she can't be the inspector. So, we do have 2 positions for inspectors that if anyone has ever been an inspector before and would be interested in doing that, we certainly have a need for that. We do pay the poll workers well. There's a different stipend on election day than there is for early voting because it's a long day. 5 a.m. to approximately 7 p.m. That's a long day. So the stipend is a little more for election day if they work on election day.
And that is one of the things. They don't have to be there. I mean, it's obviously great if you have somebody who could work the entire week of early voting, but they have to do a full day. They can't come, do a couple hours, walk away. So maybe you find 3 or 4 people who can do individual days to fill in.
Yeah.
That's still training a lot of people. What type of training and how much time is put into actually training someone to work on the polls?
Well, in the last few years, we have tried a new process of training, whereas we used to do training like the week before early voting, the whole week. You know, we were training people every day, different, you know, titles, whether it be judges or clerks or whatever. But it was exhausting, and we would be there to train a group, and maybe only 3 or 4 come. So now we have our vendor train our judges and our inspectors because of the new equipment, you know, to make sure. And then we just do training on one day now, in which we have 3 or 4 sessions, you know, for the different, and we train like judges and clerks together, clerks and inspectors, you know, whatever. We can train them all at the same time. Now that we have that wonderful room, the Commissioners Council can be set up as, you know, a workshop type.
Right.
And we can train, you know, 2 different groups in the same room at the same time, so it only takes us one day. It's an exhausting day, but that's better than the whole week, you know, and taking up that room that could be used for someone else and only 4 people show up.
Sure.
So, and also we have videos that we're launching on the poll worker website so that people can look at those, they can refresh, because it's the same video that we show at training, but then we have hands-on. We never used to have hands-on like that, like we do now. So we have a session, watch the video, answer questions, then we have hands-on, and we have so many, a good number of poll workers that have worked, you know, ever since we went to paper ballots and ever since we went with e-poll books, that we kind of match them up with someone who's never done it, and that way everybody gets an opportunity to actually do the hands-on, other than, you know, not ever knowing till you get to the vote center. So, I mean, it's more information and it's all in one day, but it's been a lot more effective.
You're watching In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We're spending time with Debbie Berry, Wayne County Clerk. A couple of things I want to try to hit. First, I want to make sure that I get in everything that you need the voters to know. And one of the things I know we need to mention is a change as far as voting in Hagerstown.
Yes. At New Testament Church, we've always voted there at the main entrance in that huge room. Their fellowship hall is right there when you walk in, just before you enter the sanctuary. It's a lovely facility, great parking, passes all of the red lights. It passes every one of them on handicap, you know, accessibility.
Okay.
So it's a great location, and our voters always just went into that main entrance for early voting, because the church is having other activities that they have a new administrator there that we've worked with. She wasn't as familiar as the previous one, you know.
Okay.
So she booked these other things, which is fine, because they have another, used to be the sanctuary before they built the new one, that they are going to allow us to have it there. So instead of the voters going through the main entrance, because if you go through the main entrance, they're going to get you for the blood drive. So if you're there to vote,
you can do 2 good things on one day. You can give blood, which is needed, and you can vote.
That's right. But so we'll have signage up, but it is the entrance just east of the church, and we'll have signs up there to go through that entrance to vote. It's a smaller area, but it's okay, because we don't have all those big DRE machines, you know, 12 of them sitting up. It'll work well. We feel like it'll work really well. And right now we're thinking that we'll be in that main area for Election Day, because there is a little bit more room. So as far as I know for Election Day, but it will still be at New Testament Church, just different entrances all, but I want the voters to know that.
Follow the signs.
Follow the signs.
Okay. What else do people need to, do you really want people to know about as we head particularly into the primary election? We'll have you back before the general to really clear some things up. But
Well, the only other thing that, you know, I want to encourage the people to get registered to vote, to
Right.
make sure you do that. And then also, you know, if anyone wants to be a poll worker, we are more than willing to talk to you or pass your name on to the election board appointees from each party, and then they will set folks up to be on our list of candidates for poll workers. You mentioned about how when they come in, they have to work the whole day, not half days. But certainly, if there's an emergency, sometimes we do have to. And in the last election, we did have a couple of people who got there and got emergency phone calls and had to leave. So those alternate people who's been through training and can come in, that's if you can just be an alternate. If you know, call us and say, you know, if you have an emergency, I'll come to the training and you can call me and I can come in for a half day or whatever.
Okay.
But it is half day or full day, not hourly.
Okay. One of the things that I think we need to let people know, we're talking heading into the primary election right now. But candidates, and candidates you mentioned have until the 16th, which is probably about the day this is going to be airing, to drop. But there are still additional times that candidates can be added. Like the Libertarian Party is not part of this primary, so their candidates will have a chance to be on the general election ballot coming up. Additionally, there will be school board races in the fall that maybe people need to be thinking about right now if that's something that they might want to participate in. Our school board races have been very vibrant over the last number of years, and there's a time, is it August, that those candidates will have a chance to drop their name in. So we will be hearing about other candidates even as we head toward the general election.
Yes, it's July.
It's July.
It's July.
Okay.
You know, when the Libertarian has their convention, then
Okay.
after that time, then, you know, candidates will be able to file. And also independents, you know,
Okay.
of course they have to get signatures. That's very important. You know, if you're interested in being a candidate, you'll have to get signatures.
And talk briefly about that process. If you're an independent candidate, you're not part of the primary, but you need to be thinking about getting a petition signed for the
Petition.
general election, and how many voters do they need, and are they the ones who have to go, yeah, you're a registered voter, and do they have to be registered voters to sign a petition?
Well, they have to be a registered voter, yes.
Okay.
They have to be registered in Wayne County
Okay.
to sign the petition, because when the candidates bring those in, then we have to make sure that they're registered, that it's a valid signature, you know, that a valid voter in Wayne County. So sometimes I have seen in the past candidates will bring in people that have changed that have registered, but they signed that form after before they, you know, registered. So it initiated the person to go get registered, but they would sign the petition and weren't registered. So then, you know, the candidate would be upset because they didn't count, and they would say, yeah, they're registered, but it hadn't come through our hopper. So then they'd have to go get, you know, more signatures. But we'll help the candidates with that. You know, we're always glad to see people putting their name on the ballot and running for office, especially if you have something to contribute, you know. So
Will the major parties, using that term, be able to add candidates for the general election also, or is this primary their time and it's over? Question mark.
no, you know, for the last several elections in the primary, the two major parties are the Republicans and the Democrats, and you can look at who has signed up now. Those are mostly Republican candidates for the local.
Correct.
So, you know, they'll have an opportunity to enter in, you know, a person on the ballot to run for the Democrat Party.
Okay. Debbie Berry, Wayne County Clerk, going through this election cycle. Once again, want to make sure that you know getting registered to vote is incredibly important. Whether you are going to vote in the primary or not, it helps just to get it done and check it off your list. You can go to the Wayne County Clerk's office, or you can go to indianavoters.com to get yourself registered to vote. You can check your voter registration. You can also register to vote if you are not registered to vote. indianavoters.com is the place to be able to do that.
And if you sign a petition for a candidate, that does not register you. We had some confusion about that also.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. So.
Signing a petition for a candidate does not register you to vote, and you need to be registered to vote before you sign a petition for a candidate.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's why we talk to her. Why do you all talk to her every election? Because something changes or something comes up every election, and this is incredibly important. And obviously, election security and trying to make sure people do things in the right order has become even more on people's minds. So we want to make sure that they have all of those options.
And there's no cost to register. Isn't that great? No filing fees.
No filing fees, no cost to register to vote. That is definitely a good thing. Debbie Berry, Wayne County Clerk, thank you very much for spending some time with us. We will be talking to you. Obviously, we will want to know whether Wayne County will be extending voter registration, so we will check in with you when that happens to find out whether local voter registration is going to be ending on April 8th or 9th.
Okay.
So thank you very much for the time. A couple of things that we want to remind you of very quickly before we head out. Don't forget, every Saturday still we are in the Winter Farmers Market. Coming up on Saturday, February 17th, they are having their annual seed swap. The Lenten Fish Fry is taking place on Fridays from February 16th through March 22nd. That is St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish, 4 to 7 o'clock, dine in or carry out. It's a ticketed event. It is tax time, believe it or not, and free tax preparation service is available at Morrison Reeves Library. That service is provided by AARP's certified tax aid volunteers through April 15th. It is by appointment only. There are no drop-ins accepted. 765-203-1788 is the number, and definitely get your tickets for Seussical the Musical, which is taking place. It is a stage 1 production at Richmond Civic Theater, March 1st through the 8th, and then again the 8th through the 10th. If you need more information, go rct.org, and the next lively art schedule is there on the screen for you. I'd like you to highlight the Faculty and Friends taking place on February 22nd. Always an incredible show. Thank you very much for watching this week's In Focus on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. As always, I wish you well.